If you're new to Lightroom and feeling overwhelmed by all the sliders, panels, and tools, you're not alone. Most photographers open it for the first time and think, where do I even start? Today, I'm breaking down exactly what I wish someone had told me when I first started using Lightroom. No fluff, no jargon, just real-world advice that helps you feel more confident, more in control, and way less intimidated. Whether you're using Lightroom for the first time or still figuring out your flow, this is for you. When you're new to photography, the list of things you feel like you need to learn can stretch a mile long. Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, lighting, posing, business basics. And then someone says, don't forget to learn Lightroom. And suddenly it feels like too much. If that's where you're at, I get it. Lightroom feels intimidating when you're first starting out. It looks like a complex machine with so many sliders and tabs that you don't even know where to begin. When I opened it for the first time, I remember just staring at the screen thinking, what if I mess everything up? But that fear? Totally normal. Lightroom isn't here to confuse you. It's here to support you. You just need someone to walk with you through those first steps, and that's what I'm here to do. Let's start with the big question that floats around in a lot of beginner communities. Is editing even necessary? Isn't it cheating? Shouldn't the goal be to get the photo perfect straight out of camera? And look, I get where that's coming from. There's a certain pride in nailing the exposure or getting that perfect moment captured in real time. But here's the truth. Editing has always been part of photography. Even back in the film days, photographers adjusted exposure, tone, and mood in the darkroom. They dodged and burned areas of their prints, they chose film stocks that gave specific colors, and they cropped images by hand. None of that was seen as cheating. It was the craft. Today, we have tools like Lightroom that help us do those same things digitally. So no, editing doesn't make you a less pure photographer. It makes you an intentional one. Now, one of the most common points of confusion for beginners is the difference between Lightroom and Photoshop. And let me tell you, it's okay to be confused by this at first. Both programs are made by Adobe. Both can edit images, but they do very different things. Photoshop is what I call the scalpel. It's designed for fine-tuning, pixel-by-pixel manipulation, heavy retouching, and compositing. Think removing people from a background, changing skies, merging multiple exposures, or painting in details. It's incredibly powerful, but more suited for advanced or very specific edits. Lightroom, on the other hand, is what I call your workflow engine. It's built for photographers. It helps you import, organize, cull, edit, and export large batches of photos efficiently and cleanly. It's non-destructive, which means every edit you make can be undone at any time. And for most photographers, especially when you're just starting, Lightroom is all you need. When you first open Lightroom, it's going to look like a spaceship control panel. Sliders everywhere, buttons you don't recognize, tools that sound complicated. My advice? Don't try to learn everything all at once. Start in the Develop module and go straight to the basic panel. That's your editing foundation. You'll see sliders for exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, temperature, and tint. Those are the tools that will make the biggest difference in your photos. Start playing there. Exposure adjusts the overall brightness of your image. Contrast increases the difference between lights and darks. Highlights and shadows let you recover blown-out skies or brighten up shadowy areas without affecting the whole image. The whites and blacks sliders help you define the brightest and darkest points in your photo, giving it a polished look. Temperature makes your photo warmer or cooler in tone, and tint adjusts the green to magenta balance. These are the building blocks of a clean, balanced edit. I know it's tempting to jump ahead to fancy tools like masking, gradients, or tone curves, but trust me, don't skip the basics. These 8 sliders will teach you how light behaves, how color changes the mood of an image, and how to correct exposure before you even think about stylizing. If you spend your first few weeks just learning how these work, you'll be ahead of the game. You'll also start developing your eye for what looks right versus what looks off. That's a skill that will serve you forever, even as your style evolves. Speaking of style, let's pause here for a second. The word style gets thrown around a lot in photography. People talk about finding their style or developing a signature look. And while it's a worthy goal, I think it causes unnecessary stress for beginners. Your style isn't something you find in a preset pack. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that emerges slowly through repetition, curiosity, and small editing choices you make over and over again. The way you handle shadows, your preferred color temperature, the amount of contrast or softness you add, all of those choices start to form a pattern. That pattern becomes your style, and the only way to get there is by doing the work, editing, re-editing, experimenting, and trusting your gut. One trap I see a lot of new photographers fall into is the preset trap. You know what I mean? Buying a preset pack from a favorite influencer or photographer, slapping it on your image, and wondering why it looks nothing like their work. And it's frustrating, right? You paid for this thing that's supposed to make your photos pop, and instead, your skin tones look weird, the greens are neon, and the whole thing feels off. That's because presets are not magic. They're starting points. They were built on specific lighting conditions, exposure settings, and shooting styles. If your image doesn't match those conditions, the preset won't work the same way. That doesn't mean presets are useless. They're not. They can absolutely help you get consistent and save time. But you still need to understand how to adjust them. That means learning what every slider does so you can tweak the preset to fit your image, not the other way around. Instead of chasing the perfect preset, I encourage beginners to build their own. Once you've found a combination of settings that you like, a certain warmth, a level of contrast, a balance between highlights and shadows, save that as a custom preset. Name it something simple like Base Edit or Studio Look. That becomes your foundation. Every time you import a new session, you apply that base and adjust from there. Not only does this save time, but it also helps your portfolio look more cohesive. And when you're working with clients, consistency builds trust. They want to know that their final gallery will reflect the look they saw in your portfolio, not something wildly different with every session. Confidence plays a huge role in how you edit. And I don't mean confidence in Lightroom, I mean confidence in yourself. Early on, you'll second-guess everything. You'll wonder if your edit is too warm, too dark, too soft, too contrasty. You'll compare your work to others and feel like your images are missing something. That's normal. It's also exhausting. What I've learned over the years is that editing isn't a test you pass or fail. It's a practice, like yoga or drawing or cooking. It's something you get better at over time. Some days you'll hit the mark right away. Other days you'll tweak for an hour and still not feel satisfied. The point is to keep showing up, keep editing, keep noticing what feels good and what feels off. The more you do it, the more your confidence will grow. Not because you know all the answers, but because you trust your ability to figure them out. There's something powerful about editing your own work. It helps you see your photos more clearly. You start to notice what you're good at. Maybe it's capturing emotion, or using light creatively, or composing in interesting ways. And you also notice what needs work. Maybe your exposures are inconsistent, or your color casts are tricky, or your framing could be stronger. That's not a bad thing. It's feedback. It's how you grow. Lightroom becomes a mirror, showing you what your camera captured and giving you the tools to elevate it. The edit isn't just about fixing mistakes, it's about finding your rhythm and shaping your story. You might also notice that some days your edits feel inspired, and other days you can't seem to get anything to look right. That's totally normal too. Your energy, your mood, the lighting conditions, the content of the photos, all of that affects how you see and edit. On days when it feels off, take a break. Step away from the screen, drink some water, look at your photos later. Fresh eyes can make a huge difference. Sometimes what felt over-edited yesterday looks perfect today. Other times, you'll instantly see what needs to be adjusted. Editing is a dialogue with your images. It's okay if it takes a few rounds to get the conversation right. And lastly, if you're feeling like Lightroom is something you'll never get the hang of, let me say this. Every pro photographer you admire once sat where you're sitting now. Confused, overwhelmed, wondering if they'd ever get it. And every one of them did get it, by doing the work, one photo at a time. You don't need to know everything today. You don't need to be fast or perfect. You just need to keep going. Lightroom will grow with you. Your skills will grow with time. And one day, editing won't feel like a mountain anymore. It'll feel like home. Once you've found your footing in Lightroom and you're starting to feel comfortable with those foundational tools, exposure, white balance, contrast, you'll naturally start wondering what's next. That's when you can begin expanding your editing process, not by jumping into every advanced feature at once, but by fine-tuning your eye for consistency and storytelling. And the first place I think that becomes really important is when you start to recognize patterns in your editing. You'll start to notice that you always brighten your shadows a little, or you tend to cool down overly warm skin tones. Maybe you like soft highlights and punchy blacks. Those little preferences are breadcrumbs. They're guiding you toward your unique visual voice, even if you don't realize it yet. Instead of trying to force a style that looks like someone else's, pay attention to what you naturally gravitate toward. Lightroom gives you the space to do that, to experiment, to undo, to try something new, and then circle back. It's a creative lab more than a rulebook. This is also where your workflow starts to matter more. In the beginning, you're just trying to make sense of the interface. But once you've edited a few sessions, you'll realize how much time and mental energy can be saved by organizing things well. It's not the most exciting part of photography, but it's one of the most impactful. I always recommend setting up a repeatable file structure. That might mean organizing folders by year, then by client name, with subfolders for raw files, selects, edits, and exports. Inside Lightroom, use collections and color labels to keep track of favorites, deliverables, sneak peek sets, whatever fits your process. The more streamlined this is, the more headspace you'll have for creativity. Culling is another piece of the workflow that doesn't get enough love, but it's honestly where a lot of your editing success begins. Culling is choosing what to keep and what to let go. And I know it's hard. You might look at your gallery and feel emotionally connected to every image, but if you deliver 250 images from a session when only 80 are strong, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your client. Lightroom's flagging and star rating system can really help here. Start with one pass, flag anything that catches your eye, then go back and star the absolute best. From there, you can start editing your top-rated images and build the rest of the gallery around them. You don't have to use my system exactly, but you should find one that helps you be intentional. Fewer, stronger images have more impact than a flood of so-so ones. Once you've culled and you're into your editing groove, the next step is speed. And speed doesn't mean rushing, it means efficiency. Lightroom is full of tools that can help you edit faster without sacrificing quality. Syncing settings across similar images, using the previous button, applying your base preset at import, these things add up. Let's say you shot 300 images from a family session in similar lighting. If you edit one, then sync those settings across a dozen that were taken in the same location and time, you just saved yourself a ton of effort. You can still go back and fine-tune where needed, but you're not starting from zero with every frame. Keyboard shortcuts also fall into this category. They may seem small, but once you learn even a few, they become second nature. Hiding panels, jumping between the library and develop modules, toggling between before and after views, cropping without having to click into menus, all of this helps you stay in the creative flow instead of getting bogged down in clicks and menus. The goal is to spend more time seeing, adjusting, and feeling your images, and less time navigating software. Now let's move into the local adjustment tools. These include things like radial filters, linear gradients, and brushes. When you're brand new, these tools might seem intimidating, but once you've gotten comfortable with global adjustments, those that affect the whole image, local tools can help you make subtle, beautiful refinements. For example, maybe you want to gently brighten just your subject's face without affecting the background. Or maybe you want to pull down the exposure of a too bright sky. Maybe you want to add a hint of warmth to the edges of a photo without turning the whole thing orange. These adjustments are what take a good edit and give it polish. The key here is subtlety. You're not trying to drastically change the image. You're guiding the viewer's eye. Lightroom makes that possible, and once you learn how to use these tools intuitively, it starts to feel like you're painting with light. Something I always talk about with my students is the idea that editing is emotional. It's technical, yes, but it's also deeply tied to how the photo feels. If you photographed a quiet newborn session, your edits should reflect that softness. You're probably not going to use hard contrast and deep blacks. You might go with lifted shadows, soft whites, and a gentle warmth that mirrors the tone of the session. But if you're editing a high-energy event with bold colors and movement, you might bring in more contrast and color pop to capture that energy. Editing isn't just about making a photo look better, it's about making it feel true. Now let's not forget about finishing strong. You've culled, edited, and refined your images. The next step is exporting, and this is another spot where beginners get tripped up. Lightroom gives you a lot of options when exporting, and knowing which ones to choose can make the difference between a polished client gallery and a mess of oversized, pixelated, or incorrectly named files. When exporting for client delivery, I typically use full-resolution JPEGs with 100% quality and 300 dpi. This gives them print-ready images. For online sharing, like social media or blogging, I'll export a second set with lower resolution, around 2048 pixels on the long edge, with sharpening set to standard for screen. That keeps file sizes manageable while still looking crisp online. And always embed your color profile. It's a tiny checkbox, but it keeps your colors consistent across devices. File naming also matters more than most people think, especially when you're working with clients. You don't want to send someone a folder full of files named IMG 3201 or Untitled Edit 1. Rename your files during export to something clear and professional. For example, Smith Family So 1, Smith Family So 2, and so on. It might feel like a small detail, but it's part of creating a smooth, respectful experience for the people who trusted you to capture their memories. As you start to develop your own editing rhythm, you'll also start noticing that you're editing with more confidence. You'll start making quicker decisions, you'll know which photos to skip and which ones to spend time on. That doesn't mean you'll never have doubts or never struggle. I still have days where I open Lightroom and feel completely unsure about how I want a session to look. But those moments pass faster now, because I trust myself more. And that's something that only comes with practice. Here's something else I wish someone had told me when I was starting. Your edits don't have to be timeless from day one. You will change. Your taste will shift. Your skills will evolve. What you love now, you might outgrow later. And that's not a sign of failure. That's progress. Some of my early edits make me cringe now, but I keep them because they're a reminder of how far I've come. They show the journey. You'll have that too. Your Lightroom catalog will become a record of your growth as an artist. That's something to be proud of. So if you're still wondering whether you're doing it right, let me just say, the fact that you're asking that question means you care. You care about your work, your voice, your clients, your process, and that care will take you far. Lightroom is a powerful tool, but it doesn't make you a good photographer. You do. Your attention, your emotion, your willingness to learn and improve. Lightroom just helps you translate all of that into images that connect. You don't need to know everything today. You don't need to master every slider or memorize every shortcut. You just need to keep showing up, keep experimenting, keep asking questions, keep looking closely, because that's where growth happens, in the quiet, messy, imperfect middle. And every time you open Lightroom, you're not just editing photos. You're building trust in your own ability to create something meaningful. That trust? That's where your style lives. Not in a preset, not in a trend, but in the way you see and shape the world. So take your time, use the tools, make mistakes, try again, and remember, you're not behind, you're on your way. Learning Lightroom isn't about knowing every single tool. It's about knowing how to use the right ones for your workflow. You don't need to master everything at once. You just need to build confidence one image, one session, one step at a time. The more you trust your process, the more your editing will start to feel natural and even fun. Keep showing up, keep experimenting, and remember, you don't need permission to grow. You're already doing it.